Yeah, word up. Check the mic. It's Jarad, Brandon, Travis, and Cypher making it live, dropping jewel-encrusted knowledge on how the modern world thrives. From education elevation to the tech-driven innovation, building stronger families, a righteous spiritual foundation. We examine every angle, untangle all the hot topics. Our perspectives are organic, knocking the phoniest off its axis. This is essential listening. Stay tuned and get the field notes. Word up! Peace!
Welcome to Field Notes, where we talk about faith, family, tech, business, and all the things between. I'm Jarad, joined by Brandon and Travis. This week, we're going to deep dive into housing. But first, let's do a check-in. Brandon, how's the week been?
Man, it's been long, but it's been good. Glad to make it another week. Family is healthy. School starts next week for the kids, so routines are about to change.
Woo-hoo. How many drop-offs do you have this year? I remember when you used to have 3 drop-offs.
3 drop-offs at 3 different schools. The boys go to the same school, thank the Lord. And then my daughter is starting high school next week. So
I thought you told me you were 25. I thought you told me you were 25. How do you have someone in high school? Brandon, do we have to have a conversation?
Mathematically possible?
My mom was 29, well past the age when it was appropriate for her to be 29. So it's all good, man.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm glad we clarified this is drop-offs because I heard dropouts for a second. So when I was like dropouts and I was like drop-off. So I was like, I hope we have no dropouts yet.
Yeah,
School hasn't even started.
College, but not high school.
Not high school. Well played. Well played. School starts a little bit later here. So we're after Labor Day. So they're eating up the last bits of summer. The week's been good. I spent 2 days at a leadership summit this week and it was excellent. I think I walked away realizing that this is a never-ending journey. Never ending.
Gosh, how's Saquon? Okay.
Wait, where's the big word alert there? Saquon?
Yeah,
I gotta look that up. There we go. The more you know.
Yeah, Mr. Backlund's got your word of the day. Saquon.
JB,
man,
how about you, man?
This week was good. I think work was a little busier, but we're finishing up the last week of camps as well for school. So we went back to school shopping and Target took all my money. And that made me sad. Well, I don't like that the kids are getting all this stuff. You know what I need? Highlighters and new scissors and frying pans and televisions and, all those things that are back to school. So I think I'm not allowed to go to Target alone, guys. Proud
to say I have not been to Target in over 3 months. I've been to Costco like once or twice, but I literally have not stepped foot in a Target for this reason.
I won't go to Costco anymore. I use Instacart. Like I don't trust myself. And then, yeah, it's been longer than 3 months for Target because the last time I went, I know it was Christmas because I went at Christmas and then I got my Target bill and I went, oh my, like this is going to take a few months to pay off. So
what did you buy?
I mean, I needed a new fake tree and I new ornaments and I needed presents for myself and others and candy and a new car. So, I mean, these are things that you absolutely need at Target. So.
I feel an accountability group.
Don't let me go to
Target.
Right, oh my gosh, that is a great accountability group. I mean, yeah, I tell you, like when Amazon made it so I can just like click things or order through my Alexa, it's bad. It's just really bad, guys. Like
remove the friction.
Remove the friction. It's not good. Hey guys, let's head on over to headlines and hot takes. Travis, you're going to lead us through this week's segment around housing. Let me hand it over to you.
Yeah, well, this is a hot topic for a lot of people as housing. This is definitely a Western or United States focus here, but
we all need housing.
Stats.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, everybody needs housing. Yeah. Birds have nests. But homeownership in the U.S. currently, 66% of U.S. adults own, 34% rent. Those numbers are going up. They're trending differently. The home ownership has always been kind of this American post-World War II American dream. First-time home buyers though right now, if you're getting a 30-year fixed mortgage, it's 6.47%. way above the sub 3 rates of 20 and 21. So I did run into somebody. We were selling something on Facebook Marketplace, a bike carrier for a toddler we didn't need anymore. And guy came over. He just moved back from Boston. I was like, where are you living? Where did you move? All that. We just chit-chatting. He said, thankfully, we have a house from 2021 that we bought here and we never let go. We rented. So we're still in the sub 3 rates, and that was something he told me within 30 seconds of talking. This is something that comes up a lot for a lot of people who are first-time home buyers. And prices for first-time home buyers, right, it's wildly different. So for a single-family home is $412,000. You go to Chicago, it's a little bit higher than that. You come to Minneapolis, it's a little bit lower. You go to Silicon Valley, it's 3 times that. You're in the 1.2 and north
cheap.
for
I know what you're talking about.
first-time home buyers. So
I think I paid $1 for my house. I'm not sure. So you talked about rent.
Should you buy a house? I guess is the first question. Is this a good goal?
It's interesting. I was having coffee, not drinks, with a coworker of mine. He just said it very matter of factly. I'm never going to own a home, and he kind of goes back and forth. He's in California. He's from Silicon Valley originally. Lives back and forth between here and San Diego, but he's just like, yeah, I've just resigned myself. It's just not on my goal list anymore. Like I can't making and he makes good money. Like he just can't ever afford a home in his mind because he'll never have the down payment, especially here in California. So I think at first it really bummed me out. And then I was thinking about it. I remember when we bought our first home, I thought like I actually didn't want one. I'm all for assets, right? Like we talked about personal finance, but I was like, go buy rental properties, go buy equity, like things that keep up with inflation. Like you need assets, but do you need to own the thing you live in? And there are some tax breaks depending on how much money you make. So if the math works out, but it also requires you to tie up a bunch of cash, right? So you can lever your money in rental properties and get the same type of return. So I'm glad we did it. We ended up making money on it. Like it allowed us to feel a little more permanent, right? Like I can control my destiny a little bit more.
Walk us through just how was your journey? Because you threw out a couple things, considering home buyership, potential investment opportunities. Which one did you do both? Did you do just one? How did you do them in sequence? And where in life did you do that? How long did you have to save to buy your first place?
I might have said this before, but I bought my first condo at 22, income stated when you could do that, which was stupid and dangerous. They literally said, well, how much do you make?
Non-verified, yeah.
Non-verified. And then I said this, and they said, well, you can't qualify for that. Write down this number and then sign it, and then we'll give you the loan. And you would think at 22, I didn't know any better. And I almost lost the place because my interest rate was variable, went up, the housing market crashed, I couldn't refinance, and my mortgage payment doubled. And it was already pretty tight. And so that was 2005. I bought my first rental property in 2009, and then I bought my first home in 2013. And I didn't want to. I wanted to keep buying rental properties. And I wanted to invest, and I didn't really care about renting versus buying. And I like having a house, but part of me likes flexibility. I will say it's expensive to move and it's paying the butt. And then, how much do you put in versus not? We've done remodels, so it's nice to make it your own. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, now I can't imagine not owning a home with kids, but at the same time, I don't know, from a money standpoint, I'm a numbers guy. I think I'd be further ahead in terms of savings if I rented versus bought.
That's so interesting. I also didn't want to buy, and my wife was the one that kind of pushed me into it. And to the savings part of it, I had saved up from 2005 up until about 2017. And I was fine renting as well, just making alternative investments. But actually, the fact that she was a teacher was part of the story of how we bought our first house. There was a nonprofit that was giving assistance to firefighters, policemen, teachers. My wife happened to be a teacher, right? So we get 10% of our down payment on our first home from this organization. And the other 10% came from my life savings, which I was really tense and nervous about putting up for this.
It's hard, right? You just empty your bank account. I remember we were buying our home in Mountain View. It's midnight. And I'm running the numbers to figure out like what is the maximum bid. They had 25 bids on the last house that we lost, and we're like, we offered 15% over asking, and we were like afraid we weren't going to get it. And I'm like, and had I offered my original number, I wouldn't have gotten it. And it's just God, what, like, do I need that in my life? Like, it was crazy.
Yeah, I was with at Microsoft. I remember like cashing out all the RSUs in the stock. You're like, I know for sure this is going up in the future, but I'm cashing it out and putting it into this thing that I am hoping goes up, maybe at a different rate. But yeah, you kind of put all the eggs in one basket, and thankfully it turned out to be pretty good decision. But in the moment, you just never know what's coming around the corner, and it took a lot of prayers, a lot of faith. But yeah, it's been good these last 7 or 8 years.
And Brandon, last time when we chatted, you also dropped a reference to Bigger Pockets and their BRRRR strategy, which for everybody else is buy, rehab, rent, refinance, I think, if I remember right. Now, did you end up doing the investment property thing too?
Yeah, talk about just timing, right? It was great back in 2017, and it appreciated so much within the first few years that we took the equity and bought in Austin area, in Chicago area. So like for 5 years in a row, like counting the single family home, we bought one place per year. And all of those are rented, kind of longer term single family home. One is a multifamily, but yeah, it really kicked off like that part of investing and learning about it and going from a mastermind, learning about this topic 2015, 2016 to actually pulling the trigger and then seeing the upside. It's been fun and funny to see everything kind of flatten out, like the Austin market and some of the markets that were like blazing hot have cooled down a little bit. So you have to like plan differently and realize that everything is not up and to the right all the time. But
nor will the future repeat the past. That's always the fallacy I think about. What about you, Travis? Did you own a home when you were out here in the Bay Area, Travis? I know you got your place in Minnesota, but
so I did house hacking before I knew what house hacking was. And house hacking, for some of the people in investment or property investment world, is buying a place that you live in and also rent out at the same time. So when I was 22, scraped together enough cash for a down payment on a multifamily place here in Minnesota. Lived in one side and I traveled a lot for consulting. And so I was almost never home. I was a single guy. And then rented out the other side, which nearly covered my mortgage. And so I jumped into that post 2008 downturn because I thought I was getting a pretty good deal on the property prices as they fell, and with reasonable rates too. So that was how I built equity while I was renting in Silicon Valley, because when I went out to Silicon Valley, I remember my coworker in 2010 bought a townhouse in Mountain View for $565,000. And I said, that's insane. I can't believe you're spending that much money on a townhouse.
I'd buy 6 of them.
Yeah. And still, I mean, for everyone listening, Silicon Valley, especially like California real estate, is tough because on the upside, it's California real estate, but on the downside, it's still California real estate. And so there's some pretty sweet highs and some pretty low lows, I think, that people have seen in that market. So I never jumped into the California real estate market. We found a great place in Santa Cruz to rent, and then we moved over the hill to Silicon Valley to be closer to work and then be closer to grad school. When I was doing that, and we found a great deal where my rent was nearly the same for 8 years. And so when my rent didn't go up for 8 years, it was hard to actually make the justification to so I honestly got lucky and had a sweetheart deal there. That being said, we've since moved back to Minnesota, and the price difference between Silicon Valley and Minnesota is literally, I think, 1/3-ish of the cost. So we've jumped back into the market here and used that time to save up to buy what we wanted once we came back. But I was buying the house that we live in right now with our 2 kids, my wife and 2 kids, when I was 39.
Okay. So you haven't had it that long.
It is further along in life than a lot of people maybe 15 years ago. And I think that's part of the question, maybe some of the pain too, is that the journey that people's parents had in the 80s or early 90s may be different than the journey that they're having right now as first-time home buyers when they're staring down the barrel of 6+% interest rates.
The 6%'s not bad, man. I mean, think like Volcker days, it was like 12 or 13 and people still bought homes. Like, I think I bought my first condo at 6%. I was like happy. So I don't know. To your point, it's the affordability. It's the income to, what is it the banks use? 42% is your maximum kind of mortgage payment to your gross income. And so that has become harder for sure.
I think there's a looming, you could see yourself in the same job for longer earlier, but these days with AI and technology kind of catching up to a lot of white collar or blue collar work, people are like, I wonder if I'll actually be able to be in this job and be pulling down these salaries in order to sustain like this investment. So I think that's a part of the calculus as well.
Yeah,
it's
and it feels
interesting.
like levers there. If I can
Yeah.
jump in, one other aspect that adds to the uncertainty, not only is job uncertainty or job anxiety too, is wage stagnation in a lot of ways too. Housing prices are up 60% since 2019, but wages for white collar, blue collar workers are not up 60% in the last 5 years.
So tell me again why you want to own a home.
That's the question.
So I was on the younger side. I was 28. I guess I was the youngest of the three of us. And again, I got some wife pressure to buy a home. And again, it ended up turning out to be a good investment. But you're right. I had to cash out everything the first time. And then I had to cash out everything and sell some blood the second time. Like it was putting all my eggs in a basket. I had to get comfortable that I don't always think about a primary home as an asset in terms of I can't retire if I'm living in it, right? Like I can't sell my home while I'm living in it. And so I had to kind of shift that mindset because it meant I couldn't save as much, right? And again, why? So you can own, man, super cynical. I had a coworker. She was probably about 25 years older than me. And I bought my first home and she literally goes, "Oh, congrats, you bought your rotting pile of sticks." I was like, "Oh my God." It was in our first week, something broke. And she's like, "See?" And I'm like, "Oh, maybe she's right. Like, what did I just do?"
I remember my friend Alex at Google too, as I mentioned that we'd picked up or had a rental place in Minnesota too, that he said, "I'm not doing that. I'm just going to put my money into broadly diversified index funds and then maybe some real estate EFTs. And then I'll get some exposure that way without having to do direct exposure to the real estate market."
So would you do it again? Okay. So you're 22, guys. Like you're thinking about it. I'm sure you've got 22-year-olds that work for you, or, I've got a few folks in their early to mid 20s. And, the guy who said, "I'm never going to own a home," it was more of a moment of defeat than it was a choice. So I think that's what bothered me. It bothered me that he didn't feel like he had the option. It didn't bother me that if he chose not to do it, but I think that was a piece that was sad. Of to your point, it's too unaffordable.
Be fair though, that feels like a little bit of this is being done to me and I have no
agency,
ability to change it. No agency. Thank you. Another big word for the day. No agency in the situation. Because
I'm getting
there.
There
We go.
I'm slow and clicking.
There we go.
The more only six letters. Come on, man. AGE.
In Minnesota, it's a big word.
I've only had half a cup of coffee. Leave me alone. The point is that your friend though is placing some artificial constraints on himself, because if he wants that bad enough, he could pull other levers and change some of the factors in this equation, right? He's saying, "I don't think I'll ever be able to buy a home in the current situation with the level of income I have and the current housing market where I live, because I'm not willing to move, and the interest rates that I'm seeing right now, regardless of what they might be in the future." So I would maybe challenge that a little bit, but
I'll put it in the same camp Brendan just brought up, which is, now he doesn't know. He's at a startup, right? Who knows where they're going to be in a year?
Fair point. Yeah.
What do you do? Do we really have emergency funds? And again, do I want to spend that on my mortgage payment? Again, the flexibility. That was honestly why I didn't want to buy, is I just wasn't sure this is where I wanted to live. My parents were in a different town at the time. And I was like, well, what if one of them gets sick and I want to go live there? It ended up going the other way. I brought them over to live next to me. But, we went and looked at Austin, Seattle, Portland when we first got married, and honestly thought about moving and just living someplace different. Even the other day, I was chatting with ChatGPT, as I often do, my only friend, and
Ouch.
I
What about me
know.
and Brandon here? Like, why do we
Sorry.
show up here?
Sorry, my third friend. And it's okay, chat. I love you still. It's listening, guys. Always. It's always listening. I can tell you stories about that. It's scary. But I came back from a vacation and I remember I just realized how much like I really enjoy being around water. Like it's just like it's a thing for me. And so I was like on ChatGPT going like, hey, where could I live? And that has water nearby, but it's also like kind of a city. And so Charleston came up, like Hood, Oregon came up. And I started looking at homes and it was like $500 or $600,000, which again seems like a lot, but if you live in Silicon Valley, seems like not a lot. And I was just like, okay, family, I think we're moving to Charleston. Like I have no idea what the jobs are, but wow, like I can have this house with a river on it for $600,000 and a couple acres. And I just thought, oh, okay, like maybe.
Well, that's the point, is that you've got agency and you're reevaluating what's important to you and the trade-offs that you're willing to make. So I think my argument back here is that friend that you mentioned may be able to buy a house if they're willing to adjust their priorities and adjust the parameters of the equation.
I see. Yeah. And so that's the question then too of like, not should you buy a home, but like, is it no longer a priority? Like, is it the American dream still to buy a home?
Yeah, I think the sentiment is important for like young people to be like more optimistic than pessimistic about the future. And we're talking about housing, but like in education or in like, graduating from one thing, college, and like being able to find your spot in the next thing, kind of the work world, corporate environment. I think the sense that you don't have optimism is kind of like the problem. So like there used to be a time that, we didn't have maybe the resources to make it happen, but we had like the dream and like the forward looking optimism that we could do it if we like wanted to make it happen. But I think that's fundamentally like changing a little bit from when I was 22, 7 years ago to like right now.
One of the things you brought up, Brandon, was job security. Do you feel like that has changed things as well?
I think absolutely. Like you can't, right now, everybody in AI is like working on disrupting themselves and finding kind of efficiencies and productivity gains, leveraging kind of the tech that's coming out right now. And it's very experimental. But we have seen, the big tech companies downsize quite a bit of jobs and blame it on different things. But net, those jobs are still being lost and going away. There's still a lot of turmoil in labor markets. So I do think that there's that sense of uncertainty that is driving a lot of the opposite of the optimism that we want to see in other facets of life, like where I'm going to own a home or the other ways that I'm going to invest and save my money. So I'd say yes.
I was chatting with a friend on Wednesday night who is a technologist and also an attorney, and he said that the challenge.
I mean, I'm a technologist. You can just add that to your title, guys. I'm a technologist now.
He's a developer background. But,
I'm a technologist and a dad. Okay,
he's legit. Actually, we should see if we can get him on as a guest. So yeah,
I use Replit. No, I use Replit. I'm a technologist.
Technologist for sure.
For sure.
We've got the opportunity maybe to bring him on as a guest. I think we'd be really interested to chat with as well. But what he mentioned from his last role, the company leadership asks everybody at the company to figure out how to eliminate 80% of your work through AI. And that essentially is a signal to figure out how to outsource 80% of your value.
What it was
to
at
the company
Facebook,
through
they were
AI.
like they were tracking your clicks and your like keyboard strokes because they're like, put yourself out of a job. Like, oh my gosh, that stuff is
that was not this place. I won't mention it. You all know who this is though if I said it out loud.
Really?
But
Okay.
It's a notable name. And so that didn't go down well with the people in the company, obviously, either.
Yeah, McDonald's. Jeez. No? Disney?
No, not quite.
IBM?
Not quite. We're just going to play roulette here until we
The
get
San
it.
Diego Chargers?
The Oakland A's, because
Goodwill?
yeah.
Forward. I'm done. I can't think of it. It's early.
All right. Well, let's move ahead just one moment here. The other thing that factors into this we haven't talked about yet, that does come up in the Silicon Valley discussion a lot too, is just supply shortage. Silicon Valley is in a unique geographic position. There's a ton of regulations in California and some other states too that are heavy on the regulations too, that make new housing development a long, hard process. And so for folks that aren't technologists or aren't in the Silicon Valley bracket of income, it's even harder watching the amount of things that they can theoretically afford be highly sought after, highly competitive to get into these places that are low to mid income, and they're not building enough to keep up with the demand.
Did you see, was it federal regulation or was it California that was like trying to ease some of that stuff so you could build more homes? But then the people who were opposing it were like super rich people. It was like Sergey Brin's wife or something like that, or Jane Fonda. Did you guys see that story?
It was, and Steph Curry, like love him as a person and a basketball player. It was fun to watch the Warriors, but also he's an Atherton and had a bit of a not in my backyard either. So
I tell you, man,
I currently have something that's happening 3 doors down from me in Palo Alto. Like a single family home wants to make it into a 48 person, like 8 unit thing so that I won't be able to see the sky from my backyard. And it's kind of this capitalism motive, like, oh, let me turn my single family house into something that will make me a gazillionaire if I can fully, and there's no below market or any like special thing in there. And that's a consideration for like city of Palo Alto, essentially. So it's weird in Silicon Valley. You got people that want to live regular lives, and then you've got people that also want to live regular lives, but take advantage of the real estate prices, and just like they came to the valley to do what you're seeing done. So it's weird dynamics, but I'm in the middle of talking to city council and like neighbors coming together to try to push back on this idea as well.
Do you think developers, if they put up a building, should be required to, or do you expect them out of the goodness of their heart to dedicate a portion of those units to lower income families to make it more affordable?
I feel like it's something that they sprinkle on to raw capitalism in order to like make it more
it's actually legal. It's actually legally required, but here's the crappy part. So the crappy part is that they can just buy their way out of it. So they can pay for the value of those units, and it goes into a fund that has to be spent on that. The problem is that fund, there's no way in the world it can grow at the price of housing and land increases. And so all these developers pay that, plus even a 20% fee to not have those in their building because the math works out for them. And so like City of Mountain View is sitting on a ton of that money where they let people get away with it, put it into a fund. But the fund can, supposed to buy, let's say 400 units, it buys 200 now. Right? Put in a law with a good intention and then allow people to get around it, right? So some people could do it, some people don't. Like, it's just, I don't know. And I took a class in land development in California, and it's freaking impossible here to do anything. Like, it just is. And brownfield, greenfield, like if there's any greenfield left, like it's just so expensive to get a piece of land ready to go through people will just sue you because they can. And there's just like no rhyme or reason to it. So it's really hard here. But then to your point, Brandon, then you got to get super creative and you get a town that kind of gives in and says, well, I mean, it's not a good idea to put an 8-unit building on a single family home lot, but like, what else are we going to do? And so I don't know, like all of it is just like bad choice after bad choice.
And as an investor too, like if you buy a house, or not even an investor, you're technically an investor if you buy a house, but if
I'm a technologist and an investor.
And anyone else want any titles today? We're handing them out, people.
Dr. Brandon Middleton.
Dr. Brandon.
Take it.
If you buy a house, though, you go in and you do hope it appreciates, right? And you're buying it with the expectation that this residential neighborhood with the cute, front doors and the tall elm trees is going to still kind of look homey and Americana in 10 years too. And so if somebody puts up an 8-story building right behind your house and you have no view of anything anymore, the value of your property goes down. So I think it's realistic to say, like, I want to kind of protect and preserve the way I bought this. And it's in tension with this idea that we still have to try to do something creative to get people housing.
Yeah, it's interesting. And this is a house that I rent, right? I don't even own this house, and I'm writing like to city council. We already have a apartment kind of in my backyard off to the left, and then if they do this idea, I'll literally have another, multi-unit on the right, and it'll be just weird.
So you're going to rent the penthouse in the new place and then just stare down at everybody? I feel like that would be my revenge. I'd be like, I'm just going to lean in.
If you can't beat them, join them. You just go up higher.
That's
yeah.
right.
When they go low, we go high. When I met somebody last fall, a gal named Elizabeth, who is very vocal here in the local city politics because she encountered this herself. They bought a small single family home in the middle of Bloomington. Bloomington's like maybe the 5th largest city in Minnesota, 90,000 people. If you've ever been to the Mall of America, you've been to Bloomington. The issue is that there's a small community center, kind of kitty corner from the house, and then a big green space and park next to it. The city had passed a bill last year to put up a new community center, and community centers are great, but also at the sacrifice of the park. And now what was a park across her front driveway for her kids to run and play in is now going to be a parking lot. And the parking lot only serves a fraction of the actual estimated traffic. So they're expecting all the rest of the overflow to go into street parking. So hundreds of cars a day parked, up and down the street in front of her house. And so it becomes a more unsafe place and definitely less desirable place to live. And the value of her house is actually going to go down. So much so that the city offered to buy out her house and then backed out of it later because I think for financial reasons that it was pretty negative. And so they're kind of stuck. And so this is not just a Silicon Valley problem.
Was that person, was her name Whoopi Goldberg? And was she in the movie Sister Act 2, Back in the Habit? Because I think that they also were trying to save a community center. I'm not sure. No? Why are you shaking your head?
I haven't, I don't think I've seen that since the 90s. I'd have to go back and rewatch that one. But maybe the city council was taking notes from that one. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, someone's got to be a villain. Yeah,
joyful, Lord, we adore thee.
Oh,
what a good movie!
Such a good movie. The Fugees before the Fugees. It's super interesting. So here in Mountain View, where I live, 3 years ago, there were 542 homeless people, and I saw that number and I was like, oh, that's solvable, right? 80% of them are not in a shelter. So we do have some smaller homes. But we have a lot of RVs, and we do have some folks outside, and we've got some cold shelters for women and children. So not a ton of temporary housing, but we do have a lot of folks living in vehicles. And I was like, great, we'll tackle that. So I work with some of the local nonprofits. We're housing 60, 70 people a year, finding new homes. And I've got some great stories from that. And that should be something we get some experts on here. But then we, within that community, they reached out to a couple of these nonprofits I work with, and they said, hey, can we do another census? Right? You guys know everybody, so let's write it down. And now it's 839 3 years later.
No.
And so originally I was really sad about that. I think it was in a nonprofit board meeting. Part of it is Mountain View is more friendly, right? So Sunnyvale, Palo Alto, they're really cracking down on this stuff, but we tend to be pretty friendly here in Mountain View. And if you look across our city council, I'd say 70 to 80% of them are pretty let's take care of the homeless population and try and end that for our town. But still it's going up, right? It's this crisis, and you look at it and it's not just supply, guys. It's not, build them a home and they'll come. There are some of these homes, but there's just so many services and things that are needed. A lot of these folks they don't have a job, they don't have a community. I have a good friend, John. He'd be a good guy to talk to, but he always says these clients that we have, these folks who are experiencing homelessness, they lack a safety net and a community, right? It's not that they're bad people, but try sleeping outside for 6 months and see how your mental health is, right? See if you can hold down a job, right? See if you can get to work every day at 8 a.m. When you're trying to sleep in your car. It's tough, man. There's a lot of barriers here. So even if we built the homes, which Mountain View is actually building a ton in the next couple of years, they had a really good response to this and a plan, and they use that funding and then some. but I still don't think it stops it. Like, there's still going to be homeless people. Like, there's more to it than that. So I don't know, man. Like, it's complicated. Like, it's really complicated. I'm a Silicon Valley person. Like, I want to make things better. Want to solve problems, right?
Yeah, you want to get to a point where, I mean, education is one part of it. You want to equip people for the workforce and to do good work. And then after, you've given them an education and an opportunity to do something, you leave it kind of in the hands of individuals to kind of do the right thing. But the infrastructure kind of around that opportunity is so much shifting these days. It is hard to. I've seen planning windows for enterprises, even like just it used to be, hey, what's your 5-year plan? Nobody talks like that anymore, just because they don't know anything about what's happening 2 years from now. So, if you take this to this topic of housing and like giving people some stability, I feel like some of those vibes are still TBD, basically, depending on who you talk to. So, yeah, I mean, the solution, I think, day by day, is to give people kind of their basic needs. And there's a lot of people, I think, in California and kind of Silicon Valley who um, project kind of their selves into the solutions, and the solutions don't match the the people that receive it or the actual situation, the facts on the ground. So,
For sure.
figuring a way to kind of do that a little bit better is something that I've observed being here for like 21 years now.
Yeah, I think it's like it's not a good thing, but when you're kind of living the lives, where we're a little more lucky in kind of our situations, and have been able to weather maybe some financial or personal hardships in a way, because we did have that safety net or community around us. I think that we think of ourselves as individuals, but then we go and try and solve these things, and we go, well, blanket problem. I can solve this for everybody by doing this. Let me just build a 8-story building next to Brandon, and then, that'll solve like where I can put all these folks. But they're individuals too. They all have stories. They all have reasons, good or bad. Some want out, some don't. Right. Like, and I kind of get that. Like, it's super complicated, and it's taking that time, this nonprofit United effort, why they're so successful. There's these two women, Claire and Way, who are tenacious. I mean, tenacious. And then to get at these programs and these government things is so complicated. Way's a lawyer, and she's figured it out finally, right? But like, to imagine someone's living in their car, English might be your second language, trying to navigate this system and struggling, right? You're just like, this stuff's hard, man. Like, it takes way more effort than it should.
Yeah, it's quite a bit of sacrifice to like personally, you have to make the decision that I'm going to kind of push aside the ability, like the profit motive, like being in Silicon Valley, and I'm going to do something that literally will make me no more money or no more acclaim. I'm just going to go towards it because I feel like it's the right thing to do. And in a place where everything costs so much, I feel like you see fewer and fewer of those people. It might just be me, but it seems like everybody is doing things that more align with profit motives, more personal than like communal village. Let's make the tribe better. And that's
It's
just
hard.
baked into the dynamics here. It's in the oxygen that we breathe.
Well, how much do you think a local government should force that on people versus how much do you think they should, I don't know, enrich the culture around there to try to encourage people to do what we think is the right thing? And what is the right thing, right? Because there may be some cultures are like the point of this game is for me to collect as many points for myself so that I win, whatever those points happen to be, whether it's net worth or cash or cars or whatever. And for some people, the point of the game is to say, how many people can I help along the way, and how do you reconcile that? How do you get all those hearts and minds moving in the same direction without regulation? Or do you just say it's impossible and you say, we're going to regulate this and make it a huge burden? You're going to come along whether you like it or not.
Big question.
Yeah. I fully expect an answer in 30 seconds. So ready, go, no.
No, I think
it's hard. That's why this isn't solved yet, I think. But
yeah, my day to day, I mean, in education, definitely, I'm like, hey guys, it's the government's job, right, to ensure that the American dream that they ask people to like dream, and they ask people to go down this path, and then they make this promise that your life will be like this if you do what we prescribe. So I do think, to some extent, like it's the government's role, if you're going to be in that position, that your job is to like ensure the safety, stability, kind of the optimism of the citizens that you're over. And all the programming, like all the stuff that you do should be towards like advocating for that demographic of people that you represent. Great that there's nonprofits and like other parts of the society that do things that enhance what you do as a core. But I do, from my kind of point of view, think that it's a government's job to kind of sustain the citizens that they are in charge of. And that's this country, that's any country. If you're like an elected leader or an official, that's kind of what my expectation is. Look around the world, I don't know how much of that is actually happening like that, but that's the way that I see it. That's what proper for me. I don't know, JB, if you feel differently.
Yeah, you hit on a point I agree with, which is that they're the government of all the people in their town. And so if you've got a bunch of people and your town is full of 5 families with a bunch of kids, you should probably have a school. But, if you have a town where 10% of the population is homeless, like you should probably do something about it. And so if you're there to kind of serve that community and to use tax dollars to fund programs, like I do believe and wish we had a stronger kind of baseline safety net, right? You look at these Nordic countries, and again, I've been there. Like, it's not like they're happier. It's that, they have that sense of security that we talked about before, because they know that if something happens, like they'll at least get some basic income and they can live. And if they want to be in a home, they can have a home. And there, the weather's not as nice as it is in California. You can't really live outside in most places in the Nordic. So that to me is why they're happier, is that sense of, again, security, which I think we've all kind of talked about today, seems to be decreasing, at least in the circles we run in and West Coast and kind of middle America. So I think the government should be doing that. I think what makes it complicated is they are hodgepodging it. And so it's wildly inefficient in some spots. Like, again, I look at what it would really cost. I did some math. We were pitching a program to another nonprofit who had more money and said, hey, I'm just going to cover the rent for 10 people for a year. And it was so cheap compared to what we knew the city was spending on services for those 10 people. And it was so frustrating because we're like, but the city had a coffee with the mayor, and they're like, yeah, we can't do that. We can't pay for housing for just a few of the citizens. And I'm like, yeah, but you are. Like, you're paying for all these services because the emergency room visits, the food, all these things. And they're like, yeah, but it doesn't work that way. Right. And so I think that's the part where I and others get frustrated of like, well, the government is just kind of building upon stuff. And, it's a loophole that you then have to plug, that they find another loophole, you have to find a plug. Like, it's a really complicated mess at this point. And so, again, if I don't have the sense of safety from work anymore, and I don't have the sense of safety maybe in family anymore, right? Like, people are waiting longer to get married. Maybe it's all tied together. And if I don't have this sense of safety of, if I get injured or I become homeless, that the government's going to take care of me, like, that's a tough place to be, right? Like, that's a little bit hopeless.
Jarad, I might challenge you on one thing you mentioned, is that the Nordics are not the happiest place to live. Actually, they are.
No, they are. No, that's what I meant.
They
Sorry,
are. Okay.
I just meant like, if you've been there, like, it doesn't make me happy to be in Finland. I mean, I like it there, but it's like, it's very pretty, but like, it's not like, I don't go there. I go to Hawaii and I'm like, oh, why isn't Hawaii the happiest country, state in the world?
State.
According to this headline, Finland, Denmark, Norway, and Sweden and Iceland consistently rank global top 10 every year in happiness scores. And one saying I've heard, my wife is 100% Swedish, is that there's no bad weather, just insufficient clothing.
I think they are the happiest, but it's not because of their environment. Again, so it comes down to, maybe it's that social safety net, I would argue, that makes them happy and feel secure, right? If like the government does a good job there of listening to its citizens and ensuring people have that sense of safety.
I think it touches on maybe one thing too. So my friend Peter's wife is Norwegian, and so they lived in Norway for a while. We visited them. There's a strong sense of community and social trust too. It's not just governmental programs; it's that we are a community and we're going to survive together. I don't know if the numbers up and to the right in American communities right now in social trust and
Other
safety
way,
nets
right?
within. Yeah,
Third
exactly.
spaces. That's the new fancy word that I've been hearing is third spaces, and they don't exist anymore. I mean, I don't go hang out in coffee shops. My people don't go to church. Where are you going to find people, right? I do a podcast with my friends. That's how I find them. But
Jarad, I might bring up one other thing too that you mentioned, and Brandon, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on this as well. Is how much do we go through the official programs? You're talking about having coffee with the mayor, and all the money, and you're saying he's essentially, or she is essentially spending that money that's just funneling through a program or set of programs, as opposed to this good-hearted person you mentioned is just like, I will just write the check. We'll bypass all of this. I will just write the check to get 10 people off the streets. And I bring it up because it's a bit of a hot topic in Minnesota too. 24, the state of Minnesota spent $2 billion to try to address homelessness in the state of Minnesota. There's just over 8,000 people. $2 billion divided by 8,000 people is about $250,000 per person. And so the big question is, why didn't you just buy them a house? And instead, we funneled it through programs. I think programs are good, and social safety nets to an extent are good too. But I do worry that the gears of the program have a lot of inefficiency in them sometimes too, which is what it sounds like you're saying and you're encountering in Silicon Valley as well.
yeah, for sure. I mean, so let's all remember, nonprofits didn't exist until the 80s when Reagan cut a bunch of funding, right? When he shut down mental health funding by the government, it started this homelessness crisis, and it started the idea of nonprofits. And people have had to replace a lot of these government programs with nonprofits. I would argue that is actually inefficient, right? There are 60 nonprofits focused on homelessness here in like a 3-mile radius of the peninsula here in Silicon Valley. In some ways that makes me happy, and in some ways I'm like, well, this is stupid. Why can't I take all that money and do something with it, right? And more efficiently kind of spend it from like a central place. And so as much as you might think government might be inefficient, it can't be as inefficient as trying to spread that across 60 people doing some small niche of solving this problem, right? So that becomes my issue, I think. But I see it. Like, I see what you're talking about. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the 250 seems low to me, to be candid, like here in Silicon Valley.
To that point, like directly solving the problem versus like creating an ecosystem. Like in tech, right? We talk about, hey, let's build a platform and let's put an ecosystem on top of it so that we can have people be able to build businesses. And I mean, generally speaking, I think in the business world that's pretty cool in that a platform is good for many kinds of businesses, healthcare businesses, retail businesses, like real estate businesses. But in government, like they're trying to solve very like specific issues. And I think the fragmentation probably hurts, maybe like JB's talking about, a lot more than helps. You don't need an ecosystem of hundreds of, nonprofits that are trying to solve, homelessness or education inequality if you have the power in the platform to just go direct with it. I think it saves time. I think it saves a lot of energy. And I think our politics and our politicians like have, a spectrum of ideas. So I try to invest some time every week to kind of hear and listen to the ideas that are out there, sometimes from places that I don't expect to find good ideas. I actually hear like some whiffs of good things across the spectrum. So I have some hope and optimism that we can get there. But I think direct is much better than that ecosystem approach when it comes to like social public services for citizens.
Yeah, Travis, I'd be curious. Like, I hear 8,000 people in an entire state, and you're like, how come we can't solve this? Like, I mean, how many homeless people do you encounter on a daily basis? And like, do you know their names?
I don't see many in this. I mean, 8,000 for a state of the entire state is, I think, relatively. I think it's easier to be unhoused in California with mild and warmer weather and beaches than it is in Minnesota, where literally it's like -28 sometimes in the winter. So that's really tough. And that's
why
probably,
do you live there? Like, let's talk about that for a little bit. Like, when we talk about like, you bought a home there, like
Sidebar.
like a little sidebar. Like, why do you humans live there.
I mean, the right answer is there's a lot of Nordic immigrants here. So there's a lot of Nordic heritage. And so it feels a lot like the Nordics. And so it's
Crazy people. Got it. Yeah, that's
crazy
cool.
people.
I'm Nordic too. I'm like half Swedish, so that's good. So yeah, I know crazy people. Got it.
The joke is that the book of Why to Live in Minnesota on the cover says, why do you live in Minnesota? And every page inside just says family, family, family. The only reason is to be close to family.
And then like in the middle, it just throws in guilt.
Yeah, honestly though, I could go on a tangent of like Minnesota being a relatively great state. It's got the highest concentration of Fortune 500 headquarters per capita in the United States. Interestingly, so
that's because they pay their rent for them to live there because they're like nobody wants to be here.
I wish
please,
they did. I wish
please Target, please. All I know is you work at Target, there's bridges to go through the buildings, including where you live, because it's so cold you don't go outside. Again, there's a show called Silo where people have to live in a silo. That's where you live.
It's thankfully not quite that bad. AI is not controlling us here. I did work downtown for the first 5 years of my career here in Minneapolis. And what Jared's mentioning is true. There are 2-point-something miles worth of skyways where all the downtown buildings are connected on the second or third level. So you can drive out of your heated garage when it's negative 28 without putting your jacket on, drive to a heated garage in downtown Minneapolis, take the elevator up, go drop off your laptop, and then spend the entire day without your jacket on because you're just walking through the skyways downtown. Grab coffee, grab lunch, go to meetings, whatever.
I wonder how so cheap.
They have adjusted to the climate for sure. Maybe one other thing that would be interesting to talk about too is UBI, Universal Basic Income, because there's an element of this maybe coming forward, and it dovetails with the housing element, dovetails with increasing prices, dovetails with job insecurity too, and what the future post AI looks like. So Brandon, as you're talking about keeping up with the politics, I'm just reminded of Andrew Yang, right, who ran for president and had UBI as part of his platform, and everybody, maybe a minority got behind that, but I think a majority kind of scoffed at that. And I think from the conversations I'm having, it's coming up a lot more in conversation now too. Like, what does the future look like? So
I think people want to get in people's business like so much when it comes to UBI. So they're like so focused on, all right, if this is coming out of my tax dollars, I want to be like in the business of how those people are going to spend it. And at some point, you just got to give people kind of the resource and capacity and the trust that they'll make do with that subsidy. And I think it's a good idea. I think a lot of people are living check to check. A lot of people are unemployed for longer than they were expecting to be, like in this climate. But then, you look at our big federal deficit and like how it's grown over time. You look at how much money we spend on other things, and just like it's a head scratcher a lot of the times. You're like, why are we doing all that in the defense budget? Why are we doing all this in this place and that place? So I generally a fan, but I think the people who will approve it have lots to say about how it gets spent and like who gets it in the grand scheme of things. So yeah, that's a hot take. I don't think
I'll give you a hotter take. I freaking love it. We need it. Like, you absolutely need it. It does nothing but good. These people are idiots. Like, I swear, like, they go look at what they actually spend it on. They spend it on childcare and rent and groceries. Like, these people aren't like suddenly becoming drug addicts because you give them $1,500 a month. It is probably the quickest, most efficient path to actually going after these folks who are right on the edge. You go from 542 to 849 in homeless people is you don't have a safety net for universal basic income, and you lose 1 month and you're out in the street, and then it's impossible to get back. Because how do you get enough for a security deposit, first month's rent, last month's rent? Like, suddenly you're having to save up 10 grand instead of paying $1,500 a month. And so I think UBI is great. I have seen mostly studies that have said, hey, people just use it on good stuff. To your point, I think sometimes it's like token spend right now in my world. Like, it's not a ton of money, but like, man, people are freaking out. And I'm like, but you spend way more than that on travel and software. And like, you don't seem to worry about where every dollar of that goes, right? Like, why are you so stressed out about token spend? So it's important to understand, but yeah, we need it. We need some version of it.
Well,
and we have it. It's called Social Security. My dad lives on it. It's great.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah. But that's age gated, right? So that comes in after you hit your 60s. This is something that
we could move it backwards. We'll
cross
see.
generation, yeah.
Yeah,
So
maybe if our Congress wasn't 100,000 years old on average, I think that's our average age. I think I just saw it. It was the oldest Congress, second oldest Congress in history, and they're 100,000 years old on average. And Mitch
Link to the
McConnell.
study in the comments, right? You're
Yeah,
gonna just drop
totally.
that.
No, I found it. It's good. You can trust me. I think, and Mitch McConnell's being weekend in Bernie's right now, so I think it's great. What? Okay, I think we should head to the wind down on that, as sponsored by Mitch McConnell.
wow.
Travis, take us home. What is one of your traditions around winding down?
Yeah, we've got an executive circle that I'm in up here in Minnesota, and we often do the rose, bud, thorn format. So something that's really just full bloom right now is a rose, something that's about to bud out, something that you got in the works that you're excited for. Thorn, maybe something that's a little prickly, something that's not going so well. I always hate to end on the downer though, so if you want to switch it up to thorn, bud, rose, that's got a nice maybe progression to something that's growing and blooming. Jared, you want to go first?
Sure. What's a thorn? School is starting, and I think that Target took all my money. I think that thorn is like my kid's getting older. Like, my kid's going to be in 7th grade, and Brandon's got a kid in high school. And I remember when she was 1 and we went to church together, and we called her Little Horn because she was so loud and she just made horn noises, and it was the cutest thing ever. And I think the thorn, like, that's what prickles me. I'm just like, oh, like, I was talking to last weekend my oldest friend who I met when I was 12 and he was 13. And now we're 25, so it wasn't that long ago. And his daughter is older than we were when we met. My oldest was my age. And I just thought, I can't imagine my son meeting somebody and 30 some years later still being friends with them and like good friends with them, right? Like you can always pick up, we have the same sense of humor 30 years later. We're still the same dumb kids we were. I think on the bud piece, like, this thing has been fun, this podcast, but I also started like a blog writing some things down. I've always enjoyed that. So link to that in the notes, but I think that has given me another kind of creative outlet. And then what was the last one?
Rose.
What's a rose? What does that mean? Something
blooming.
Full.
What's thriving right now?
What's your high? Yeah.
There we go. I have had a wonderful summer. Like, I was really thinking about this. Like, I think from a work perspective, from a life perspective, I've taken a couple trips. Like, it's been one of my favorite summers in a while. And I don't know if I can point to one specific thing, but, the last couple months, I was looking back and flipping through some Google Photos, as I often do, and I just had a lot of really fun little memories. And it was doing an experience for the first time, or going to see a comedian or a concert or something like that. The kids are getting older, so they're getting more fun. So that's probably the thing that recently has just made me smile every time I think about it. What about you, B?
Those are great. I'll start with the thorn, which also is kind of a rose too. My wife was in summer school, master's program at San Jose State. So instead of a full semester worth of courses, she's been in class from 11 a.m. to like 8 p.m. every Tuesday and Thursday. So the thorn of it is that it's been like really stressful to try to have her mom and, have my job. And I'm just thankful that has come to an end this week. We are out of summer school and getting ready to go back to the normal routine. So that thorn is behind us now.
Awesome.
I'd say the bud is something that I'm excited about. At work, we're getting ready to launch a series of back to school activities that will resonate hopefully really well with students and faculty and researchers and administrators at schools all around AI literacy. So stuff that I'm really passionate about and focused on. So we'll see if those small seeds that we've been planting this summer actually turn into some cool stuff. And then I'd say the rose, I have to agree with you, Jared. Like, lots of good experiences this summer with camps and with travels, and even my interns. Like, I hired a few 22, 23, 24-year-olds this summer, and That
Your peers,
young
right?
energy,
Your peers.
yeah, younger energy. Lots of laughs in there, lots of like teachable moments, lots of just like, oh, I got some grace for you guys because I asked those same dumb questions when I was, 21 years old as an intern and 22 years old as a full timer. So, uh, yeah, it's been a great summer. I think the World Cup had a little bit to do with it. I love soccer so much, so I really got a kick out of watching a lot of the games with my boys. So
Do you know how many
uh,
games I watched, Brandon?
I don't.
Zero games. Is that bad? Like YouTube, I watched a couple of like recaps, but I don't know. Like people would be watching. I'm like, man, I'm too busy. But I tell you,
Yeah, the Middletons love soccer so much, man. I feel like literal tech companies with a lot of people from other countries like lose productivity every
we
4 years.
100% did. Oh yeah. Like I would just hear cheering downstairs from people watching stuff. It was great.
When I was at Google, we every World Cup, they would just all the kitchens, all the cafeterias, they would take all the projectors in there, and it would just be whatever World Cup games are on at the moment. So you would just it was totally cool if you just wanted to go work from the cafeteria for the day while you're watching Argentina.
Yeah, I was like,
From the
don't
cafeteria.
leave, stay forever.
WFC, working from cafeteria. Thorn for me, it's minor and it's going to be a good thing after it's done. But the neighborhood has apparently finally decided to put in fiber optics. We've been on cable internet, and it's been fine for my limited needs. But the construction's happening now. And so it's been a little bit disruptive, and I realize how dependent I've become on good, reliable internet. So when it gets flaky during meetings or during conference calls, it's kind of annoying because they're disconnecting and reconnecting things. But it'll be good after it's done.
Does that make you like think back to like, weren't you like a city launch manager for Google Fiber? And does it now make you go like, man, I was so evil that I was going and launching fiber in these cities? No?
It did make me feel evil. It did bring back some good nostalgia. That's one of the best jobs I actually ever had, as far as like an enjoyment perspective. But I've become kind of the quasi neighborhood, hey, does this seem reasonable guy? So my neighbors, because they knew I have a background in this, like saying, what are they expected to do? How much are they supposed to like fix my yard? What should I expect? I was like, expect the cheapest dirt possible and expect the cheapest grass seed. And it will not match the grass seed that you have. So if you want something different, you should take control, take agency and control your own future here.
GENC.
Six letters, people.
I was super hoping you were like AJ.
So that's the thorn. It'll bloom. It'll bud and bloom. So it'll be good. The bloom right now, man, I taught, so our kids part-time homeschool, and maybe we can talk more about that sometime too. They're in school Monday through Wednesday. They homeschool Thursday, Friday. And parents in this kind of hybrid scenario have reading, writing, and mathematics responsibilities. And so I taught my 5, now 6-year-old how to read this past year. And it's just been so fun to watch her bloom in that she's just running with it now. And it was a little bit of a struggle early on. Her older sister just picked it up with no problem. And Emmy had to work at it a little bit more, and she's determined. So that's been really fun to watch that bud out, and it's going to bloom. And then the bloom, maybe what's in full bloom right now. I've spent the last year very intentionally trying to just reconnect with good people that I've lost connection with or let it go a little bit dormant. And also try to invest a little bit more in those friendships and experiences with my time. And that's hard sometimes because I just feel like I don't have enough time, and there's just too many people to try to spend good time with. But I'm doing the best I can, and I've got to be thankful for that. And so I was just really thankful for that this week as we finished up a road trip with some friends from California, as I caught up with some friends Wednesday night at a baseball game, as I reconnected with some friends at a conference this week, and then capped it off with a great podcast with 2 good friends here too.
You're doing a good job with us. It's good.
Yeah. Amazing.
Folks, let me just remind you where you can find us. We're all on LinkedIn. I mentioned my blog, My Old Notebooks, and you can check that out. And Brandon, I feel like you always have some conference or something going. So if you want more Brandon, you can always find his next thing on LinkedIn. So boys, I appreciate you. Have a good week.
All right. Thanks, guys. See you next time.
Adios.
Let the